All right, this video tutorial is how to come off the loom. So when you're coming off the loom, you want to actually make sure that you have more weaving done than what I've got done here. So my weaving is very small. I want yours to be larger, but we're going to use this as the example today. So you're going to start with your weft, which is the part that you've been weaving. And so you want to leave a tail that's about a finger length long. That way you can tie it onto the warp string. So I'm going to come to the warp string that I just went under, and I'm going to wrap around that warp string one more time. So now I've just made a loop. Okay, now with that loop, it's very much like the scarf knot that I taught you. So I'm creating an X right here at the bottom of my loop. I'm going to take the tail, and it's coming from the back side of the X, so I'm going to cross over the front of the X with the knot, push it through the hole, and have it come out the back side. So now I can pull that down and tighten it up. If that knot doesn't work for you, it doesn't matter. Whatever knot you use, you just need to make sure that it's knotted to a warp string and it's connected, okay? Leave the tail for now. We don't need to cut that off just yet. Now we're gonna flip over the plate, and you're gonna find the tail that you taped down at the very beginning of this. So what we're gonna do is we're going to pull this off of the tape, and we're gonna bring it around to the front and pull it through the notch. So now we have a loose string. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tie this warp string to the warp string just neighboring it to the right. Okay, so similar to what I just did with the weft, I'm gonna go under and create an X. This time I'm gonna come from back behind, up through the middle of the loop, and pull tight. Again, if you don't have a perfect, if you don't do it exactly like I did, that's okay, as long as you have a knot. And you want the knot to be close to the weaving. Not so close that it begins to pull down on the weaving, but right up to the weaving. Okay, now I've got my tail. I'm gonna leave these tails. Okay, we don't wanna cut them because this is how we're going to connect the weaving to the arch that is outside on the playground. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this, I'm just gonna let this hang. Now, you want to do this next part step by step. You don't wanna do it all at once. If you do it all at once, you run the risk of losing your weaving, having it come unraveled. So you don't want that to happen. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work to the right. So I'm gonna go to the next two notches and take them off out of their notch, which creates a loop. Okay, so now with this loop, I'm going to cut the loop right in half, right down the middle. Now I've got two warp strings. So I'm going to cross them to make an X, come through and pull down, just like you do when you're tying your shoe. I'm gonna do that one more time. You wanna double knot it. So I'm going through again and pulling down. Again, coming right up against the weaving, but not pinching it. And again, leave those tails. Now I'm gonna move the loom, come off the tab, okay? And now I'm gonna cut. So you wanna keep doing this all the way around, making double knots each time you go around. You want to make sure that you don't go through and take all of the loops off first, because again, like I said, that will cause your weaving to come unraveled. So a loop off, cutting the loop in half, making one knot, and a second knot. Okay, so you're gonna keep doing this all the way through, so that way you end with kind of a spidery looking weaving. So you've got your weaving in the middle, and then you've got all these warp string tails just hanging about. That's okay. You want those warp strings. Do not cut those warp strings. Leave them long. That, again, that's how we're going to tie onto the fence on the playground. Okay, so you may also notice that your weaving gets a little bit looser when it comes off the loom. That's something that sometimes happens, and that's okay. Just keep in mind that when we go to tie it back on to the fencing, that it will tighten back up, because it's essentially like we're putting it back on a type of loom. Okay, so I am almost done here. I'm gonna have two more warp strings sets to tie, and then I will place this back in my art kit until next art class. So again, my last loop, I'm going to double knot it, going once, going twice. It's a little bit trickier the more it comes off the loom because it's sliding around. The plate, save the plate, it goes back in your art kit, and so does your weaving with all of its fringe.